Number 1, you are not allowed to park in a loading zone. So these are areas that are going to be reserved for vehicles that are going to be actively loading or unloading goods. And if you are going to park in this area when you are not loading or offloading goods, it is going to disrupt your businesses and it's going to slow down your deliveries. Now, if you take a look at this diagram, right, you can see that the loading zone is going to be identified within the yellow box, and you can see there's a capital letter L within a yellow circle. Now, that's how you know that this area is a designated loading zone. And in the next diagram, we can then see that there is a vehicle that is parked in this loading zone, and it's not going to be loading or offloading any goods, and that's going to block any delivery vehicle from being able to enter the loading zone and conduct their work. So rule number 1, you are not allowed to park in a loading zone. Rule number 2, you are not allowed to park on traffic islands, pedestrian lanes, or in pedestrian modes. Now, these areas are going to be specifically designed for pedestrian movement and for safety. Now, if you are actually going to park here, you're going to obstruct your foot traffic, and that's going to create hazards for people that are obviously walking. Now, if you're walking on this traffic island and there's a car park there, obviously you're going to have to go onto the road to cross, and that's going to be very hazardous for your pedestrians. Now, if you can see in the diagram, the red car is going to be parked on the traffic island, and that is definitely going to cause big problems, right? Because like I said, that's going to cause your pedestrians to have to go onto the road to cross this car or to go around the car. Rule number 3, never park within 5 meters of an intersection. Now, what we need to know is that any vehicles that are going to be parked too close to intersections, they are going to block visibility for your other drivers. Now, this is going to obviously increase the risk of an accident, and it's going to create traffic congestion, because remember, if you are approaching an intersection and there's a car that's parked there and it's blocking the way, you're not going to be able to see what's happening, and that is going to lead to an accident. Now, in the diagram, you can see that the yellow car is parked within 5 meters of an intersection, and that is not allowed. If it was beyond the 5 meter mark, then obviously it will be a different story. Rule number 4, keep a distance of at least 1.5 meters from a fire hydrant. Now, let's say there's going to be an emergency, right? Your firefighters are going to need quick access to that fire hydrant, and if your vehicle is parked right next to it, it is going to obstruct them, and that's going to delay the response time, which will then obviously, put lives and property at risk. So as you can see in the diagram, the red car is parked, 1.5 meters away from a fire hydrant, and it will allow firefighters to have clear access to that fire hydrant, obviously in case of an emergency. Rule number 5, do not park within 9 meters of a pedestrian crossing. So pedestrians and drivers obviously need to have a clear view of each other at your pedestrian crossing. So what does that mean? That means that if a vehicle is approaching the pedestrian crossing, you need to have a clear view of all the pedestrians that are actually crossing at that section. And if you are a pedestrian, you need to have a clear view of any vehicles that are approaching, so you basically know exactly what to do. And if you are going to park your car too close, it's going to cause accidents, because that's going to reduce the visibility, and your drivers are not going to be able to see if there's anyone walking on that pedestrian crossing, and whoever is walking on the pedestrian crossing will not be able to see any cars that are approaching. Now, in the diagram, the red car is clearly parked beyond the 9 meter mark, but if it was within, then obviously that's not allowed. So rule number 6, when parked, your wheels should never be further than 450 millimeters. Now remember, 450 millimeters is actually 45 centimeters from the edge of the pavement, unless a sign permits otherwise. So think about it like this: if you are going to park your vehicle more than 45 centimeters from the sidewalk, it is going to stick out into the road, and it is going to block traffic. Not only is it going to block traffic, but it is going to pose a danger to your other drivers. Now, when you park within 45 centimeters of the sidewalk, it's going to ensure that your car is not going to stick out onto the road, and is not going to obstruct traffic, and is not going to cause accidents. Now, in this scenario, you can see that the car is parked within 45 centimeters of the edge of the pavement, and that is going to leave plenty space for any vehicles that want to actually pass. However, if you look at the next situation, you can see that the vehicle is parked quite out into the road, and that's going to block any cars wanting to pass. So always make sure that you park within 45 centimeters from the edge of a pavement, or a sidewalk. Rule number 7. Never park your vehicle where it will block a road sign. Now we know that road signs are going to convey critical information to drivers and your pedestrians. Now if you are going to block them, that's going to cause a lot of confusion and it's going to lead to many traffic violations and accidents. Now as you can see in this diagram, the vehicle is going to park in a way that is going to block a road sign. Now that road sign is actually going to warn your road users of a pedestrian crossing ahead. And if drivers are not going to know of a pedestrian crossing ahead, they're going to continue to drive fast and they're just going to drive through it. And if there are people walking there, then, well, you know what's going to happen. Rule number 8. You should not park on the sidewalk unless stated otherwise. So basically sidewalks are meant for pedestrians, not for vehicles, right? If you are actually going to park your vehicle there. Now for example, in this diagram, the blue vehicle is parked on the sidewalk. Now that's obviously going to cause your pedestrians to now have to go onto the road to go around this vehicle, and that's very dangerous because we know how busy some roads can be. Rule number 9. Do not park at any location where road signs indicate that stopping or parking is not allowed. Now signs are going to be placed in their respective positions, obviously for your safety reasons. Now whether it's to maintain traffic flow, visibility, or emergency access, if you ignore them, it's going to result in fines or towing. Now in this diagram, you can see there's a red vehicle that is parked by a do not stop sign. Now that vehicle is either going to get a fine or it's going to get towed. Rule number 10. You cannot park your vehicle on a road that has a width of less than 5.5 meters. Now the only exception to that is if it is a one-way road. Now you need to remember that narrow roads are going to have to remain clear, obviously, to allow your vehicles to pass. Now if you are actually going to park on a narrow road, it is going to block your flow of traffic and that's going to create roadblocks. Now let's look at this diagram and let's see what's happening here. So we can see that this is a two-way road and that road is going to be narrower than 5.5 meters. Now the blue vehicle is going to be parked on the road, and that's going to now mean that the vehicle behind it has no way of clearly going past. So it's going to have to wait for the oncoming lane to be clear, and then it's going to have to go around, and that's going to be very dangerous. Now if this was actually a one-way road, then that's going to be perfectly allowed because the other cars can be able to easily pass. However, since this is a two-way road and it's narrower than 5.5 meters, it's not allowed to park on this road. Rule number 11. Avoid parking near a traffic light. Now if you're going to park your car near a traffic light, it is going to obstruct the view of the signal, and that's obviously going to cause confusion, which can potentially lead to accidents. So in this diagram, you can see that there's a vehicle that's parked near the traffic light, and a lot of drivers are going to be confused when they see this, and they may, start to get nervous and go through a red light. Rule number 12. You cannot park at the entrance of a public or a private road. So when you are going to actually park at the entrance of a public or private road, and let's say there's an emergency, let's say there's someone sick and an ambulance needs to go through, how are they going to go through if your vehicle is blocking that entrance, right? Let's say a property owner needs to enter his property. How is he going to enter it if your vehicle is parked in the way? Now that is illegal. So you cannot park at the entrance of a public or a private road. And for rule number 13, you cannot park within a length of 1 meter from the edge of a road that is located outside an urban area. The only time that you may actually park there is if it is a space that is specifically laid out for parking. Now if you are actually going to park too close to the edge of a road in rural areas, it can be dangerous, especially at night when visibility is low. You need to ensure that you only park in a designated parking space, as that is going to ensure your safety. And that's a wrap on your parking rules. I want to thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. Now the test questions that are going to be based on this lesson will be out over the next day or two, so stay tuned for that. All the best for your learner's license test, and God bless. Goodbye.